Hello there, beloved Ascension pioneers, and welcome to my latest Ascension update, where I will report a bit about the latest portal energies. So, as you know, we had the eclipse season, which brought us an immense opening. But what really occurred during this sealing that occurred with the lunar eclipse in Libra was that a new portal opened. So as you know, we always like to say that eclipses almost serve as gateways to higher upgrades of consciousness. But with this latest eclipse, it was almost like a culmination that led to a portal opening. So if you experience this around your corner of the earth, remember portals are all over the world. They're not just the main portal points that we know. It's almost like in your body you have the main meridians and the main chakras, but then you also have the connector points. So the same is happening on our earth. And during this latest portal, there was the portal of really freeing things up, the portal of the new. And many times I mentioned that here where I live in the Alps, there's this pointy peaky mountain that almost looks like a pyramid. And it's even called like that. And around it there's a portal. And whenever there's a shift, what happens is that the energy first comes through these portal points, and then it actually reverberates outwardly. And we as Ascension pioneers, each in our own energy, and what we do behind the scenes as our energetic purpose, is we each have a part to play here with this energy and how we transmit it in a way. Well, the energy really works on its own, but it needs us to direct it. So the more we master ourselves in this knowing, and the more conscious we are when this portal energy comes, the more we can work with it. So today I want to dedicate this video more about talking about this and how portal energy comes. I think I've spoke about this many times before, but every time I share something, it's almost like an upgrade comes through. So when there's a portal point, and people always say, wow, you know, I'm experiencing weather shifts here. I like to call this, when it occurs, is the portal weather. So what we had here for the last few days was like snow, and at the same moment there's like strong wind, and then there's sunshine, and it can shift from minute to minute. And it's not just what we like to call here April weather, but it's something more. Because you can almost see how the energy at that time, it's not stabilized. So when the portal opens up, the energy is not yet stable. That is why the weather patterns are shifting so much. And recently we had a lot of this occurring all around the world, and people reported about major storms and strong winds and the precipitation. So here we had a lot of cold weather. The temperature were almost as low as in the December month. So what really occurred is that the energy was, it's almost like when it happens, it's not stabilized. And this again was propelled by the energy of the latest solar filament that erupted, and some of them said that, I think it was at the size of the Grand Canyon. It was really huge. And although sometimes we say not all of the proportion of the energy goes and it directly influences the earth, but it does, because even though we say it doesn't hit it directly, everything is almost like a web of energy. So it only depends how the energy moves. That's all that it's about. It's not that it doesn't affect the planet or it doesn't physically hit it, but it's how the energy moves. And each one, of course, will be different because the purpose of each opening is different. So when this latest portal activation occurred, every time it's accompanied by a flare activity, because the sun, the soul, is the gateway. It's the gateway of consciousness to many beings coming and working through with the energy here with this planet. And every star is, of course, a stellar gateway. And with the sun, that's what we call it, the solar logos. So the whole logos of what's happening and how the portals are then affected on our planet is written through that record. That is why it comes through the emanation of the solar flare frequency. So what it really takes place for us is that we will experience these shifts more intensely if we're doing any kind of pioneering work, which means the new earth laying foundations. We will feel that probably more than others. So there will be increased sensitivity. Your body will feel it. Usually what I feel a few days prior to such activity is I have a lot of sensitivity in my mouth, even, and how my teeth get so sensitive, and you're more maybe prone to infections and really being sensitive, and your whole body, you might crave food, and at the same time when you eat, your belly hurts, or you know, you'll feel tired just from being hyperactive and all propelled with energy, and then the next moment you feel like bam, you're hit with that wave of integration, and that's because your body needs to process all of that. And because this occurred during the eclipse time, it's especially strong, it's especially activated. And at that time, our body really needs that solitude. It needs that time that we give it, that we spend with it. Because when you're on a path of ascension, it means that you're going to consciously always need to dedicate yourself to your ascension. It's not a matter of choosing maybe yes, maybe no, but it has to be a clear choice that's made on a soul level. But what also happens with these portal shifts is that the energy of dreams, of channeling, anything like that will be amplified. And that is why I also want to dedicate a few words to channeling, because sometimes I still have people who write to me and they say, for example, I had this recent example, somebody wrote to me that they were in a workshop and there were people there in a group, and there was a couple leading the workshop who channeled the information for them, what they are on a soul level, what they're supposed to be doing, and it was a lot of data there. And yet the person still left the workshop feeling confused, and they didn't know whether to continue with workshops and what to do next, and they asked me for advice. But you know I can do that because I'm not living a life for somebody else. But what I can do is share awareness on these things. And I want to really say about these channeling things that people still don't have the highest awareness that these things hold a high level of responsibility. There was a lot of cosmic beings. You know, when we say I'm a starseed, well, that doesn't mean anything on its own, because there's a lot of starseed beings here on the planet who got too involved with the earthly process, so they created their karma, and that's why they're now so working for the earth, so they can untangle themselves and neutralize again what before was not in that great balance and in the respect of free will. So a lot of times you have people who, I know they maybe want to do good, and they don't do that consciously, but they think they're helping others. But sometimes, and I've recently heard, I think it was somewhere with the master teachings, I don't remember, but it was shared that there can be sometimes more damage done with information like that than there can be good. Because a person, if they're still confused, it means that they are receiving that merely as information, not as the frequency that comes through their soul knowing. And I want to give you the direct, not opposite, but a different experience that I experienced last night. It's because I just laid there with a pure intention to really dissolve all of that, because with this eclipse, we're eclipsing a lot of things out of our lives. They're just changing. And I will speak about this towards the end of the video too, what is occurring within our relationships, because it was Libra, it was in relationship zone, is that I had this immense pure intent to just release. And there was a specific focus, of course, to certain relationships as well. And then all of a sudden, just putting my hand on my heart, the other one on the plexus area, which is the inner empowerment, then all of a sudden I began to source through my soul grouping. So the consciousness of your oversoul self, this is what Ascension is about, that you can embody these light quotients of your higher ascended soul group. So this is what Jesus was already showing us, to hold that light of your Christos template. And what this means is that you experience yourself as a group speaking to you through you. So it's not an external channeling, because it comes through your core group. It's not a being channeling for you. It's not any information. This is what you already know. It comes through you. It comes through the pillar of your I am. So there was this beautiful, I spoke, with this fluent English that I don't know if I can speak like that in my videos, but it was very beautiful, because you're just surrendered to that flow of divinity speaking through you. And that's a completely different experience, because it's you just it's not channeling, because channeling can be it's not a negative word, it's a neutral word. It's of course how we use it, because there was a lot of channeling in the first part of the first waivers, and I'll speak about that towards the end of the video, and how that energy is now transitioning to this new, towards embodiment. So it's not a negative word, nor is it positive, but it's how we use it and how our perception here lies. So if we in awareness know that in truth, there can only be sourcing. So there are beings who say they channel, but they actually source. So everything that they share is already from their group, from their star-seeded experiences, from their oversoul. And that's what the channeling, when they process this in a pure matter, it's very pure. But there's a lot of those who say they also channel, and it's not pure, because when the ego gets involved in any sort of way, you think, wow, I can channel this being or this entity. So the egoic tendency will trigger egoic responses and egoic guidance, which a lot of the times manipulates and confuses. This was already shared in the Law of One, the raw teachings, and this is what I'll talk about towards the end of the video. But I want to say that it's really important that we stop seeking for something, to stop seek ourselves, because this new portal is bringing us that freedom to just be. Because to have a certain information about yourself does not necessarily mean anything. It's just information. What do you do with it? Can you live it? What does it mean for you anyway? Is it meaningful in any kind of way? How can you apply it? How do you live that way in your physical reality? It's sometimes when you don't even know how to process it through your body template, it will cause you even more confusion and even more wondering. And the more you wonder, when curiosity is engaged too much, which is egoic, it's that need to constantly affirm and confirm, you're going to get away from that self-awareness, self-knowledge, which you get through deep trust and surrender. And I did a mastery course on mastering divine trust, which is all about when you receive that spirit alignment guidance, then how do you trust it? How do you live in that accordance? So if you're interested in that, go check my mastery courses. That's all available there. And I really wish to work with people who really want to work with themselves, with their self, not constantly seek outside of themselves and ask other people to hand them everything out on the platter, because it doesn't work that way. So this new era is moving from these channels to conscious embodiment. So this is what I want to dedicate a few words to here, is because how we see the energy is actually shifting. Recently, there was a lot of these beings who are pioneers in this development, such as channeling, hypnosis, regression therapies, and all of that, especially the first wavers, who were people that in our timeline were more older. And these people are beginning to pass, like Masaru Emoto and Dolores Cannon, who brought this amazing pioneering work in hypnotic regression. And then recently I found out about this woman, Carla, I think her name is Carla, I hope so, who had the law of one, the raw material. She also just spoke these things in a deep trance, like for example Edgar Cayce did in his times a few decades, not decades, a century ago. So what's really taking place is the spirit is showing us that these passings of these people into other realms is showing us that it's almost like the experience of that, which was needed for that seeding, is in a way ending and making this passageway for the new, because we need to now embody all that we know. I remember, because I'm a huge fan of Dolores' books, there was just before she passed last year, I had this knowing, like, okay, now I feel her books, as awesome as they are, they're a bit repetitive, it didn't feel like something new is coming through anymore in a way, and I felt, okay, now we know this, so what do we do with it now? This is what's important. That's why the new wave of guides is showing people how to be, how to live that in a very practical way, because life is practical, life is beautiful, life is to be engaged with, not to just dream of here and never really make the move, and constantly just ask yourself why you're here, what are you supposed to do, as your life is just running through, and one day you wake up, wait a minute, I'm not living it, I'm just thinking about life, but I'm not really living it. So this paved a pivotal pioneering path at the beginning. These channeling materials like Barbara Marciniak with Bringers of the Dawn, or Patricia Corey, the Syrian revelations on her books, they were amazing. And there's a lot of authors there in this field, and I really like Lisa Royal, I think, Royale, I don't know. But there was many beings who really were almost like the first prime channels. But what Spirit showed me much time ago, I remember, because I asked myself, but how do I know these things that come out in most people's regressions with Dolores, that I already know them without being regressed or hypnotized? And Spirit said, because this is the new wave. The new wave is consciously aware of what some are receiving in hypnotic states, because this is the new human. Jesus didn't, when he embodied this, when he reached this Christos oversoul self in Ascension, he really wanted to get a message across that everybody can do it, that this is where we're here to reach that, and then to see that life does not end there. It always transpires and moves to a new state, and that Ascension is that key, it's that answer for that when you reach that level. So when we talk about these waves of ascension, sometimes I see people confusing when we say the first wavers, the second wavers, the third waves, but that means in waves of volunteers, and then we say the first wave, the second wave, and the other waves of ascension, which in fact, when I look at it from a higher perspective, it's not even waves, because everybody ascends in their own time anyway. So as much as we had these waves of volunteers, so the first wave was that older generation in terms of my generation, and And these people were almost like setting the foundations, and some of them were grid workers, and they had to travel all around the planet to activate these points. And I had an automatic writing about this years ago, how this is all entwined and how we're all kind of, you know, doing that in these steps and overlaying. They're all like overlaying patternings to really get the frequency of New Earth moving. Just yesterday, I was so guided to do this beautiful grid work with the New Earth template, at the painting with the crystals. I do these crystal grids. You can find that on my Elven blogspot, and I share this always on Facebook and Instagram, so you can check how that looks. It's a beautiful energy coming through with Earth just being in its pure essence and really held within the true grid of divine love, and then the rainbow grid being activated through that crystal itself. So now what's happening is that the beings who are this new generation, well, the older generation is almost like handing it over to us, and they already did their work. So they're moving, either they're passing in spirit if they're choosing so, or they're more like moving towards just maintaining their lives, being of service more behind the scenes, or not doing such a grandiose or channeling works anymore, or just, you know, retiring in a way that they also enjoy their own lives. Well, we all are invited to that more in the new, to just live our joy and bliss. But what this means is that in general sense, just recently I remember I heard a lady spoke about this, that people who are feeling that their mission is sort of complete, it just changed, it just altered, especially with this latest portal I felt. It was the ceiling that says, okay, it's complete, but that doesn't mean your life is over or complete. It's just that that part of the work we really came here to do, it's almost like it's done. I know sometimes it's hard to believe, because it felt like, when is it ever going to end? Where is it ever going to end? And it never does, because all life in creation is constantly moving. But a certain phase did end. So recently, Spirit sent me all these messages about culmination, and, you know, the major arcana, the last tarot card in major arcana, which is the world, the ascension, the graduation, and all these messages were about that. So it means that the first wavers maybe are feeling that retirement more, but they're still doing the work. But the work is more just being in your joyful self, doing the things you love, maybe you thought about before in your life, but you were so dedicated to this path and things that were physical as well, so you couldn't do those things, but now it's time. So this is not just for the first wave. I see that it's for all of us. It's moving to a different state. So if you were one of those people who felt something ended, I don't feel my mission the same way I did before, and you know, the volunteer souls will always feel their missions more as assignments, and it's always there in Dolores' books. These beings always say, well, for me it's not an incarnation, it's an assignment. I go, I do the work, and I go. And it's because it's not attached to what's really dramatically and karmically was unfolding here in this cycle. It's just knowing your task, doing it, and then going to a next assignment. That's why a lot of us, we're not really attached to what's happening here, but we still have the love to do this work. And we're so aware. Well, many people are saying, I don't know what's my purpose, and a volunteer soul just like, I just do my work, whatever it is, without me needing to constantly know what I'm doing. You're just guided by that heart. And all the rest of the humanity is now able to move to that as well, to just create the kind of life in that freedom state, freedom of being, which is so important in Ascension, that they also realize that they can, because they are creators. And so what really is taking place now, that this channeling energy is moving more to the energy of conscious embodiment. So if you're, I don't know, maybe you also had one time in your life a regression or hypnotic state, and you were channeling some things to yourself, of course, and now you're more finding yourself that you're more consciously knowing things, and maybe you're still doubting them and they're not so sure. That's why I made this course, Mastering Divine Guidance and Trust. So it's really becoming evident that the new human template is living that which was set up as a foundation. And this last portal really shifted that energy there. And it's really making us aware that we can all be in that state. While we focus on these assignments and tasks, but through joy. It doesn't feel, in the past for a lot of beings, especially maybe the older generations, it felt heavy. And they felt this heavy burden, like they're responsible for so many things. And maybe a lot of them were, because they created also these karmic playouts. A lot of star-seeded beings had this. But karma is not a word that can be used in terms of negativity, like it's bad. I don't even use the word karma, to be honest, but because many people do, I would like to say the involvement, yeah? The involvement was there. So the involvement needed to neutralize, and they had these assignments. And once the assignments were complete, that doesn't mean that the work is over. It just means that the new assignment will open up. So this time during this portal opening is very important for us to tune in, to be very silent, to consciously listen, because we are going to receive new life chapter, almost like directions. And Spirit is showing us, look, sometimes it won't come right away, so be patient. Don't be hasty, because that energy of constantly being curious and needing to know everything before making a move, sometimes it's not even right to do a move right away. Just, you know, if there's nothing coming up, just wait. Be in silence. Don't be afraid to be in the void for a while. And we are going to receive these new kind of like nudges and insights, and this is something that's already within us. So it's just from the unconscious, it's coming to the conscious, and it's going to be known. So we might consider it as a new idea and a new opening, when in fact it was already there. So this is something that's happening. And you might also feel, if you're in a process, maybe if you're one of those who really like to watch channel videos and material, and now you feel, oh, I can't feel anything there for myself anymore. Spirit recently shared with me that there was so much of information, almost like an information overload, that sometimes this can it's almost like it can burden your system too much. It can be an overwhelming energy coming through. So when this happens, especially with the beings who are awakening for the first time and they want to absorb everything, so your auric field gets plugged in and you can't actually have a direct higher self communication so easily. That's why when I awakened, I was in nature all the time. And most people were like, oh, how can you know so much? And how are you so advanced in this? Yes, it's because my soul is very advanced, but at the same time, it's because in the physical, I needed to embody it. So I gave myself the proper treatment that I can reach that state, that I can really stabilize my higher self knowing. Because higher self doesn't speak to you in ways, do this, do that, you know, it's not voices in your head that sometimes make you feel like you're crazy. It's just a beautiful feeling of your total divinity that overflows you, and then in that state you can do anything. You are inspired. I mean, just this week I watched a video about Sri Chinmoy. He was this guru in the 70s, I think. He went to USA, he was from India, and he had this goal to just paint, and he painted like over 100,000 paintings. And he said that this goal of the divine source, the supreme being, is just to channel in through me and what it wants to convey through me. So it's not really me, I'm just a channel for that divine light, and then to inspire through that. So what Spirit showed me is that the art that we're doing through that source communion, it has codes. It has codes of what source is telling us. So when I do like a grid, for example, and I share it, the energy goes out. So if you have something to share, don't be thinking, oh, am I going to sell this? Is this even going to mean anything? If you feel that that's something that really came from that divine inspiration, it doesn't matter. It's not that you have an egoic thought how you're going to share it and what's going to come out of it. It has no agenda, no purpose in that way. It just has a purpose of sharing itself, and it's completely divine. And I love that video because it showed how one is dedicated and surrendered, you can achieve anything. And I just remember watching him. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of work, and there was all the dedication was there. So a lot of times, you know, even people ask me, how can I find so much time to do all that I do, because it's so many things. And it's because I devote all my life to that, to service, to being divine conduit for this light and inspiration. That's it. There's nothing else. That's all my desire. And when you feel that freeing up of your true self, you know that when you are in service to others, to creation, to life, to expand, you will always be inspired, always be supported. You will always find resonance, and you won't think about things like, oh, I'm so different, nobody gets me, I'm all alone. Even though you might sometimes feel alone in the physical, you won't feel a sense of aloneness or isolation and this constricted energy, because you are, through your inspired creativity, you're already connected to not just the World Wide Web, but the cosmic web, and there's a great cosmic convergence happening at this time. I want to share more about this, but I'm reaching this, the ending of the video, because I need to return back to my running before I freeze, because I told you that we have very cold temperatures recently. So what I'm guided to do is this video that's going to share more about galactic alignments and galactic heritage, this galactic story, and why things are like this on this planet, and how this actually is in the grander scheme of creation, and how different planets are different portals to different almost like different soul schools and different master initiations, and how we may tune to this so that we can, in this earth reality, embody all of these parts of our multidimensional cosmic self and understand life in a completely different way. And I will also, besides that, start doing galactic origin readings, which will kind of tell you the star energy that you carry within you. And again, this has nothing to do with you, oh, am I a star seed, am I this energy, am I that energy, but the archetypes that you're meant to embody in this life, that you really carry within you, and that are important for self-fulfillment for you. So this will be under a new section on my webpage, Set Up in a Light. It will be under this galactic convergence, cosmic convergence, and the video, of course, will be almost like my mastery teachings, but it will have a specific separate purpose there. So it won't be included in the mastery courses, but it will only be there in this galactic section, because I feel this is a story that almost needs to be told, that I have a lot of this knowledge of this cosmic unfolding, and I wish to share it with those of you who want to move deeper. So that, that will come soon, so stay updated. And I really wish you so much love in this new. There's great freedom and opening. So if you felt restricted in any way before, and as well Jupiter is moving direct now, which is yay, for all those of you who are always about soul expansion, because Jupiter represents that. It's spirituality, it's soul expansion, it's constant pioneering energy forward. Then you are again entering this cycle of fire energy moving forward. And we have to somehow make use of it and benefit, because when we learn to ride the cosmic waves, then we've mastered it all on this level of traveling this physical realm. So my beloveds, as always, so much love, wisdom, and power, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.